Hello, everybody. Welcome to the L-5 podcast with your favorite hosts, Dana, Bryan, Jeremy, and me. This week, we are reviewing two films from the Welcome to the Blumhouse project that was on Amazon Prime. So Blumhouse TV Productions decided to come out with four films that they were going to exclusively make for Amazon Prime. And we chose two of those and watched those two. So we're going to give you our 17 minutes from each one and then also review the rest of it. So the first one we can start out talking about is Black Box.
I believe that I can reverse your condition.
We should give it a shot, right?
Come with me, please. We call this headset the Black Box, an immersive virtual pathway to your memories. I like to begin with something I call the safe room. When you push the crown of the watch, you will be in your subconscious. Are you ready?
I really loved the first 17 minutes. I loved certain parts of it. It gave me a Black Mirror vibe with some of the intricacies, and it was kind of tricky to figure out, like, okay, I know I'm, getting into something later, and I know that there's a kind of mental game that's going to be played. And so I like that. So that was my first comment, is it gave me Black Mirror vibes. I put the character development was also pretty good. I love that this main character, you're getting into his life. You're getting into his life story. It gave me sort of like a Memento, like you're going back and forth, but you're actually focusing on probably Felicia Rashad and some other people, probably two or three main characters. And so I think in a movie like this, character development is so critical. And so I liked it. Within the first 17 minutes, I got a clear idea of who my main characters were. The little Black girl, young actor, is talented. In the first 17, I put yes, Lord, yes. She will be super grown when she gets older and in her teen years and gets, our age. And I'm just like, what is going on with just her personality? She's very vibrant. She's very articulate, obviously well-trained. And so
Amanda Christine.
Okay. Yeah, she did a phenomenal job. And I put little girl boss, BOSS in all caps. So no reference to Sasha Banks, the WWE star. And that's about it, guys. I gave it a 4. It was pretty solid. It was a good 17-minute opening that didn't confuse me. It gave me enough intrigue to continue watching, which is what I expected when watching the trailer. So I gave it a solid old 4.
Nice. Very nice.
Yep.
I'll piggyback on what you said, Jeremy. For my 17 minutes, I agree with you that I think that the character development is key in this type of film, and they did give me exactly what I wanted in the main characters. Without really spoiling it and what's going on, this is kind of the bullet points of what I wrote down. Dad has amnesia from something that's given away in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler. I wrote jump scare because there was a jump scare right off the top when he was inside the house, I believe. And so I thought, okay, is this going to be one of those movies that's full of jump scares? And that's their hook to try and make this a horror movie. So I didn't really know what was going to happen there. Lots of reminder notes when he had those stickies all over the house to help him with his amnesia. I thought those were little touches that were really good to help you understand where the plot is going, where this character is in his head. And then I wrote the same thing about you with the little girl. I thought she was fantastic. Amanda Christine, I don't know if anything else that she's ever been in, but she was outstanding. More of the lead role to me than actually he was, to be honest with you, with a lot of things that she was doing and carrying a lot of weight on her. I said that, so this is not a spoiler, but when he goes to the newspaper to try and get his job, the woman tells him that she's not going to hire him. I thought to myself, that's a phone call. That is a phone call or an email. You brought me all the way down here to tell me no. She could have got answered that really, really quick over the phone. The photo that he showed looked like Atlanta, so I was wondering where they actually took place, where this film was actually taking place, or where they shot it. Great character building in the situation and in the plot. Claire Huxtable, I will always call her Claire Huxtable, Felicia Rashad, has gracefully aged, is what I said. I feel like she does not, she ages really, really well. She looks fantastic. I was getting Get Out vibes a little bit from this. Where is my teacup is what I said. Where is my teacup? Because in the first 17 minutes, we get kind of a hypnosis type of thing. So I thought about Get Out whenever I saw that. And creepy bone cracking noises is what I also wrote. So the first 17 minutes, I gave it 3 stars. I was on board. I was happy that I saw it. Let's go. Where are we going with this? Let's do this.
Guy walks into a doctor's office and says, "I have amnesia." And the doctor says, "Have you ever been hypnotized?" I don't know. I thought that was just hilarious. I'm like, how would he know? But I have been hypnotized by Felicia Rashad. And I'm coming back for more.
Been hypnotized. I was about to say. So far it's a basic story. Is this a horror movie? I'm asking to myself. It's like, because I'm thinking these are all like horror movies, or just tortured by what you may have forgotten. Is this the big bag you? Oh, is the big bad? Sorry, autocorrect. Is the big bad with D, not a bag, you? So that's what I was asking myself. It's like, okay, he's gonna, yeah, and that might, I don't know. He's never gotten angry or punched walls before. It's like there's so many clues so early on, that this is really creepy, and he's the one that had the jump scare. So he got frightened by all of this, and he's getting scared by, the thought of like the dent in the wall. But so I'm writing, will he get worse? I'm thinking, will he get worse? Did he turn into someone else? Let's stay and find out. I was really interested in this. A lot of times you try to tell a story and you try to lure people in to stay in and really get them hooked, especially with something that's a mystery or a thriller or a horror movie or something, just to bring you through, just so you can kind of have this really exciting experience. And I thought that they really started this out really well. I was giving it a 3.5. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, let me say, Blumhouse Television, when I first heard about it, my assumption was it was related to the movie company. And Corey knows, when I see that little corner room with the light bulb hanging, I'm all there. I'm like, this is going to be a horror movie. I can't wait to watch this or whatever. So I was totally excited about them bringing their content to Amazon. So I was real excited about, I don't know if they're doing more than 4, but I know about 4 of them that they're doing. So anyway, the first thing I want to say is the guy whose name I'll mess up, so I'm going to let Corey say it. His name is?
Hold on.
Okay.
Mamoudou Eti is what we'll say. Mamoudou Eti.
We've watched several movies lately with him in it. I think the most recent one was it, I want to say Cookout, but what was it called? Uncorked. Why? Because they were in there doing something with meat,
barbecue.
Barbecue. I thought it was Cookout. Okay. Uncorked. I love him.
Yes.
As an actor. So I was really excited to see him again. He apparently right now, he's getting his 15 minutes in. I'm so happy for him. I hope that continues because I really enjoy his acting. I agree with Jeremy and Corey, the little girl. She was on point, very believable for what she was doing. Some of the questions I had and some of the things I was trying to follow is his selective amnesia, because he knew some stuff. He remembered some things, but some things he didn't. The sticky notes, straight up Memento. I was feeling that. Also, Corey, I got that whole tea thing with that feeling as well with Get Out. I also felt like, and I don't know if I was the only person in here. Of course, we didn't know anything at this point. But in my mind, I told Corey, I was like, Felicia Rashad, I don't trust her. Like, there's something about, just because they put her, I mean, when you have somebody like her in what, at this point, you know, we're known as a horror movie, I'm like, they'll probably want to lead you, you know, make her something we're not used to seeing her as, right? And I was like, I wonder. But I agree with you, Bryan, that at this point, what I was basically feeling is we've got a good, whether it be horror, mystery, or whatever, I want to know what in the world is going on. Like, you know, why did he lose his memory? What, you know, so at this point, they totally had me hooked. I was very interested to see what was going to happen. And so I gave it a 3.5.
Yay. It's like great scores all the way across. I think that's really good for first 17 minutes for a well-known horror production company to come out and do 4 films like this. This is the first one we saw. I think that's a really good showing. Let me tell you, I love this movie. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I love this movie. I thought it was great. I'm gonna spoil the hell out of this movie, okay? I don't know any way that you can talk about this movie, to be honest with you, and really hook people without spoiling it, personally. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna spoil it.
Warning, 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 warning.
I'll just expand on what I thought after the first 17 minutes. The daughter, I thought she carried so much weight and on her shoulders, and I cried thinking about all the things that she has to go through without having her father's memory and not having her mother. Like, you could feel the pain and everything that she was in of what she was having to deal with to try and get her father back, and also not have her mother there. And I was just like, I don't know how her at that age could be able to deal with something like that, you know? When there's that scene where he drops her off, okay, and he looks back in the mirror, and I said out loud, go back and go get your daughter. Go back and go get her. And, you know, and then also you see him later on show back up, and she was so terrified. And I'm just like, oh, like, you know, that's so painful. That is so painful. I really got creepy vibes from the whole other side with the crackling of the bones and him upside down and crawling and all that kind of
Ray
stuff.
Wyatt.
Yeah. I got really, really creepy vibes from that. I like that. Claire is so shady. She looked crazy as hell when they finally caught her in the act at the very end. I thought it did a really good job at keeping the suspense and mystery going. The lead actor did a really good job at playing both personalities, because he does both personalities for a brief second before we introduce to the other character, the other actor, I should say. So I liked that twist. I like to see that he's not just one note and he has multiple ranges in this movie and in previous movies that we've seen him in. So I really like that. And I also said that this is not a horror movie, but more of a sci-fi thriller, but I was still on board because of all the things that they were throwing at me, with all the acting, the creepiness of it, the mystery. Just, I was trying to guess every single step of what was going to happen, and I couldn't really stay ahead of the game, of the curve of what it was that they were going to throw at me with the plot twist. So I gave it a 4.5 star.
I'm right there with you.
One of the things, real quick, where you said about the little girl, that I was wondering, and so initially when we saw all the notes, I don't think I realized at that point Mom was gone.
Right.
And he was having a memory problem, but I didn't realize there wasn't, you know, somebody else there. And so I wondered who was writing all the notes, because it didn't look like, you know, little kid handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, so is he writing these notes, you know, to himself again, Memento kind of thing, so he can remember. But again, I just thought it was interesting how he remembered the car, how to drive, the seatbelt thing, and all these other things but then some stuff he couldn't, and I never honestly got a complete grasp on exactly what his memory loss was. And I am sure scientifically, I mean, we've all heard about short-term, long-term memory loss, and I'm sure I probably heard of random memory loss too. I was just not really sure what he had. You know, it just seemed, honestly, sometimes it seemed a little convenient for him to remember some things but couldn't remember others.
Right.
So I did feel that way. I totally agree. This was not a horror movie, which was somewhat of a letdown for me because, again, when I saw this, I was like, yes, you're giving me movie theater quality at Amazon at my house. Let's do this. But it really was a good story. While we have seen or heard the story before, I think the way it was done is very different than what I've seen or heard before. So it didn't feel like this is just a repeat. You know, I didn't guess 5 minutes in what the whole thing was going to be, right? And you know, sometimes that happens. But anyway, go ahead, Bryan. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I was just gonna say I was right there with Corey on the loving this, being not really being able to tell what was going to happen next, but as a father, dropping your kid off at school, that's scary enough. But when you get the call saying nobody picked her up, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, just how awful is that? And to put a kid through that when there's nothing wrong with your parents is bad enough. And just, you know, just to be in that situation, and it just, that hit me, because that's happened. It happens.
Do you think he should have been able to keep custody of his daughter given the things he could and could not remember?
That's a good question.
I'm kind of surprised that he didn't have help of some sort, you know, like a parent or, you know, a brother or even his friend who became such a big part of the story, to be there to help out. But he was struggling to get his job back, so, you know, it seemed likely that he couldn't afford to hire help, but not to have a friend or somebody come, you know, relative or somebody come over.
He kept calling his friend Uncle Gary too.
Yeah.
So I at one point thought that he was his brother, and I was like, well, why is he not more in the picture to help out, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe he was, but it didn't seem like it. I don't know. It didn't seem like to me they were brothers.
I'm just saying, because he kept calling him that, I thought maybe he would have been. He was there. You know?
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was going to say back to that, Corey. I couldn't like differentiate what he was. Like, is he his homie, his brother, his cousin? And until that uncle part, I felt that even though I said the character development piece was like good, I felt that they should have connected those dots more, because I would have wanted to know who is there, who isn't there, who your family is. Because if something tragic happens, I can only speak to my experience. My family is like jumping ship, driving from North Carolina, driving from Maryland. Like, and I was just like, what is he, other than being a doctor and being in the medical field, what benefit is he adding to this guy's life? Like, if you're a homie, okay, I get it. That's your friend. I'll be there when I can. You know, I got my own situation. But family is a different, like, lineage. Like, family is, you know, you might not like all your family, but you gonna show up when you need to show up. So I did put a little like star beside character development, not because it was bad, but because the family dynamics, which with the mother was clear, but with him, it was like gray area. I was like, y'all didn't do a good job in that part, but you did a good job with the mother, you know, son thing. So I was confused.
So there was a part in the film where, you know, we're past the spoilers here, but he drops his daughter off with his uncle and says, I just need a couple of days. And I was totally like, what on earth is going to happen next? And from that point on, I just had no idea where it was going. And I loved that. That was so fantastic. I thought that was so well done. Because
But at that point,
I was so mad at him. It's like, how could you do this? But
you
know,
are mad at him. You are mad at him.
but I don't think I had a clear picture yet.
Well, but at that point, though, didn't we have information about the plot twist of what was going on? Because his mind was manipulated, had changed.
Yeah,
right?
but I don't know that I really fully understood what was really happening yet.
Yeah.
So I still thought it was weird.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, how could you abandon this awesome kid? You know,
No matter who you are, no matter if
Yeah.
it was the real person or the other guy,
yeah,
how could you have just left this child here?
yeah.
And say, I gotta have a couple of days. Like,
So I loved how this played out.
I did too. And you know what's funny is that the scene right before that when he's going to go drop her off. He said, I'm going to go drop you off at Uncle Gary's house for a couple of days. And she was like, no, what's wrong? You know, you can't do that. She was upset.
Yeah.
But then they cut to the room and she's packing her bag. And I was thinking she was running away. Like, you ain't got to drop me off. I'm leaving.
One thing I wanted to mention is I noticed, like, I don't know if you know, the second time we looked at the hole in the wall, and maybe the first time too, but I didn't remember. I thought, wow, that hole is lower than I would have expected it to be if he had hit it. And I don't know whether that was intentional or whatever, but it made me think at the time, you know, before we saw it, I was like, I wonder if it was the backwards walking creature who actually hit the wall, because the hole is low. Like if he's standing up, and he looks like he's tall, like I would have expected the hole to be higher. But I was like trying to figure out what was the hole. But I think just like you said, Bryan, you didn't know where it was going, and that I think that was the best part of this, is because it gave me, you know, something new, something to look forward to. One thing I will tell you, and I felt this to my bones, and Felicia Rashad, she did so good on this. That mom who feels like her son can do no wrong. I mean, you know, he could be a murderer, killing children all over the world, but no, not my son, not my son, you know. She played that to the hill. Like, I felt like I had seen that woman before. Like, you know, there are people like her that exist, that their babies can do no wrong. And it just like burns me up, you know? And so just seeing her like that, when even he realizes he can do wrong, like, you know, he's not necessarily a good person, she's still in disbelief, and like, you can do it all over again, and, you know, and I wonder how much she knew of what was going on, you know, for her to even feel like he had redeeming qualities. You know, I get you love him, but he is a child abuser, he is a wife abuser, God knows what else he has done, you know. Not acknowledging that, other than to say you can do better this time. I thought that was kind of weird, you know. So let me ask this, because I'm not 100%. So I want to walk through this, and you can leave this in or take it out. So the real guy, not the one who she puts in him, he dies. He's brain dead.
Brain dead. But
apparently not.
Mostly.
Okay.
Mostly, because he's still in there.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So again, this comes to the get out. Okay. So he's still in there in what is it? He's in the sunken place. Anyway, and so
he's in the black box.
Yes, the black. So the new guy comes in, and he's there. But just like the mental part of his conscience that she put in her computer. Right. I just want to make sure that.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. On the basic level, that's right.
She downloaded him.
Yes. So I got confused because at one point it was like, you know, in his chart and stuff, it said he was brain dead, but I was like, obviously he wasn't, because he's a full functioning person still in here. So my question is, did Felicia save him? Because if he was pronounced brain dead, would they have just like, you know, taken him off or whatever, and he would have died? Is what she did give him enough time for him to mentally break through and come back out?
Yeah, I think ultimately she did. So that was like the one good thing she did about it. She gave him, I guess she gave him more of a chance. But if she hadn't done anything, would he have just been in a coma all this time and never really sparked awake? Yeah.
Because I'm assuming whatever she did to him sparked, and helped bring, not only put her son in, but help bring him out.
I do like the paperwork did say like brain dead, but if you notice the sentence under it always said trial invalid. Like it put a caveat there, like a semicolon, almost like he's brain dead, it says, but like still testing or trial like they put those sentences there that if you missed it, you probably had to go back or like look and see that to your question, Dana, around like did she save him? What did she do? There was like a part of him still, living in there, but it said brain dead. Like, how when they put the like announced, brain dead, but also there's a part that like he still has some activity there. And I like that. If they didn't put that, I would have been like, okay, brain dead. Okay. He has no chance, 0% chance. But when you say brain dead, and you put that little caveat in there, there's still some, like subjectivity around like, okay, this ain't as objective. Like this might be subjective, but it's also, these are doctors. And I kind of trust if they said maybe there is some life available.
Because I saw it and I thought what they said, and I don't remember, so this could be wrong. I thought it was like brain dead, but he recovered or something to that point, like he came back. And so that was, and I'm just talking this out now, but like, when did he come back? So if he's in the hospital and he's brain dead, at what point did Felicia get his body, run him over to this lab, now that I'm thinking about it, now I'm confusing myself even more because I'm not sure how this happened.
Movies.
But a solid point to a psychological movie where you have to pay attention to them little details, that matters. That matters. That's why I give it a 4.5, not a 5, because that stuff matters. A lot of that psychological terminology is stuff that's real. Like when you can't see faces in your dreams, that's what that is. That's a real thing. But like when you also can't determine like all the kind of configurations and monsters and kind of metaphors and stuff, that's also part of like dreams and dimensions. It was just made like in a kind of Get Out way. Like I think Corey and Dana said, it is kind of like Get Out. But when you have a movie like this, I think those little details, to her point, matters. Because if you leave it out or you leave the viewer confused, then we're just going to be like, well, how did Felicia Fireman's carry him into that bad boy, drop him in the chair, put the visor on? I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing that somehow he made it in there, but I was left with the same question. So my point is, I don't think you're wrong, Dane. I think there's some validity to how did he get in that space from the brain dead state? I don't know.
But then also it doesn't take away from your enjoyment of the film.
Well,
Right.
no, because I didn't think about it till now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. When you want to sit there and analyze, you'll find things that you won't like. I mean, it don't make sense. Absolutely.
One of my good friends, Donald Watkins, actually plays in this film, and I again might be a little biased, but I think he does a outstanding job. Not going to spoil a little bit too early, but one of my good friends who does acting is one of those people who will say like, oh, I'm on a movie. It's on Prime and it's coming out in October. So I really didn't realize and put 2 and 2 together that this film is the film he played in. So
did you just see him on screen and go, oh, crap? Or did you know before you watched it that he was? No,
I did not know. And I did say, oh, crap. I was like, oh, my God. Like putting the character of who's going to play like a dual part of, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but the dual part of the story, I was like, this is not the person who I actually thought would be good for that. And then as I saw him act, I was like, dag, like actually he is, younger, older. So it surprised me, Bryan. It really did. It shocked me. I put my water down and I was like,
that's so fun.
That is fun. That is fun.
I love that though. That's really cool. Somebody who's not braggy about it, but then you see it and it's like, oh, how cool is that?
Yeah. We both went to, arts programs. I was more of the design, and obviously he did the film side. And I always thought he was underrated. I was like, man, he's going to make it big. And so he has a lot of movies that you can go to his IMDb page and look at it. But anyway, that's the first story that I saw a good friend in the movie that I was surprised to see.
I think that we got enough of Jeremy's friends acting. Donald Watkins, is that what you said his name was?
Yeah.
Who played Thomas. I mean, I thought that we got enough of him on screen that I thought he did a fantastic job. I didn't know if we were just going to stay with Nolan's character, the actor who played Nolan, the entire time, and just have his body be there, but then voice of Thomas type of thing, or were we going to transform? So I like that we actually did that and got some of his acting in there, and I thought he did a really, really good job. And Thomas,
and kudos for playing a role that I think is hard, right? I mean,
yes.
Obviously he's abusive to a child and to a woman in the name of acting, not in real life, but
right.
It takes people who are willing to put themselves out like that to do those type of roles, because everybody's not going to feel comfortable doing that. But the story needs to be told. So
yeah, and I'm gonna call Donald for that body slam he put on. I said I need a contract with AEW and WWE. I'm like, he slammed this 6 foot, like probably 180, 190 brother. I said, dang man, I didn't know you had it like that.
That's funny. That was really.
So I gave it a 4, so 3.5 to 4. I enjoyed it.
I was a 4 also. That was my final score too. Yeah. Highly recommend.
Yeah. So I went from 4 originally to 4.5. So I went up 0.5.
I went from 3 to 4.5. So sounds like we all really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Highly recommend.
Definitely. I actually recommended it to my mom and dad because I just like the acting so much. And my mom doesn't like horror movies, but I told her, I was like, it's not a horror movie. It's a sci-fi thriller, but there is something in it that might creep you out a little bit. And she said she covered her eyes during those scenes, but she still really, really enjoyed it. My dad really enjoyed it too. They both gave it, I think, 4, 4.5. But my dad said it reminded him of the Frankenstein movie, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Absolutely. She was Dr. Frankenstein. She was doing this experiment, but Dr. Frankenstein just transplanted a brain into a cadaver, and she downloaded a person into somebody else's body who may as well have been a cadaver. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Or his dad is sitting somewhere saying, "I told you."
I told you so. The other series. There's a TV series that this really reminded me of. CW did the 100, and it's been on for a few series. And they have a lot of storylines where they basically have the leader being downloaded into this chip into the back of somebody's head, and all the leaders just get downloaded and downloaded and downloaded and downloaded into these people, and they just become this weird mesh of crazy. But later, there's a storyline where people start competing for control over the character, and so this really reminded me of that, where there's somebody who's latently inside the head hanging out while the other person is taking control over the body, and they have these struggles to see who was going to win, and that's just that reminded me a lot of the storyline. But I really liked how this played out.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Jim?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say this movie reminded me a lot of how powerful artificial intelligence is. And I say that because we are in 2020. We like, man, we ain't going to have no meetings with Zoom and Blue Jeans 24/7, and look where we're at. Right? And it's just fascinating to me, like all these ex machina, all these like robotic, artificial intelligence and human form movies that just really freak me out, guys. Like, it's really like, is there going to be a point one day where Bryan is right, where people are like downloading subconscious, unconscious bodies and ways for people to like load into somebody where they're taking over something? Or is there a way where artificial intelligence will just take over human basic behavior? I don't know, but it just these movies just make me think of it. I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm freaked out, but it's just something that reoccurs in my mind when I see something like this, because it's like the way they made this movie was very like, dang, there's some real elements, like, and I like that, but it's very just in 2020 where I was like, I don't think things will happen, and they happened. Future is not too far from us, so it's just kind of intriguing.
That's a very good point.
I wanted to ask a question because I one thing I liked about this is like we've seen scary movies and horror and it's about blood and guts and stuff, and that's not what this was, right? But I'll call him the creaking man. What is it about seeing a person who, you know, is just able to bend a little more than we are, you know, walking around? That is totally like the freakiest thing ever. Like that has always like that Ring quality or The Grudge and all these different things. Seeing those, you know, people, but it's just so freaky. Like you can see somebody, you know, get the head cut off, and it's like, oh, but you see a freaky person walking backwards down the stairs. It's like, you know.
It's well, I mean, it is that sideshow quality that is just it's the same thing that all for I don't know, a really long time has really made sideshows popular, and it kind of gives you that is that what we want to use to represent scary? You know, so it might be we might want to start second guessing that. Yeah. But we're seeing a lot of it. There's some contortionists that are being hired to play these roles, and they're getting, and it's getting amplified with the sound effects, of course, you know. But
and how they look, because when they're on like American's Greatest Talent, whatever those shows are, and they're in their little, you know, leotards with sequins, I'm fascinated. I'm not scared. I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe they could do that. But to your point, it kind of reminds me of like the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz, right? Like,
yes,
you know, so I could totally see what you're saying by that. And that's a good point, Bryan. That's something I hadn't even thought about. So yeah, because you're right. The being able to do amazing and beautiful things with your body. It's you know, they build acts around them in Cirque du Soleil, and they're not being ridiculed or criticized or feared or whatever, you know, whatever the sideshow mentality is, and that, you know, I think that's dying, hopefully.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the second film that we saw from the Blum House Project. Welcome to the Blum House Project. The second one that we watched was Evil Eye.
I watched the wrong one.
What did you watch?
I'm just kidding. I didn't watch the wrong one.
Oh. You can watch any of them. Just make sure you watch the two that we had on our homework. Evil Eye.
Hey.
Hey.
Have we met?
Wow, use that line a lot? Emma, I've met someone.
Balu, this is such good news. I've been praying for a good man for you. Can you give me his date of birth?
You're not checking our horoscopes.
Talk to your daughter.
Astrology is unscientific nonsense.
Are you wearing a bracelet?
Yes.
Good. It will protect you, darling. If you're not careful, bad things could happen.
He's rich, cute, and good with babies.
No wonder we've hardly seen you this last month. Is your mom happy?
I thought she was.
I don't want you to fall in love with the wrong man.
Why can't you just be happy for me?
Your mother was in a very bad relationship.
How bad?
He was dangerous. She never really recovered.
I don't think he ever went away. Leave before it's too late.
You sound like you believe what you're saying.
Let us help you.
For your own good.
She's cursed. I have to save her.
This is madness.
I
pray that my daughter be spared.
Ma, you need help.
I'm trying to save your life, Baloo.
See, I knew if you just met him in person, everything would be fine.
Once again, not a horror movie. More of a romantic comedy is what I wrote in the first 17 minutes. I like the main actress. I will say her name is Sunita Mani. Seen her in other comedies. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll look that up. I liked the Indian culture. I thought that it was so pretty and a nice landscape that they painted. Did mom make a deal with the devil? ? I loved the opening credits. I thought it told a really good. It was a way of telling you the plot and the story of Evil Eye in both English and Hindu. So if you look at it, it was written like top and bottom, and I thought that was just really pretty the way that they put that up there, and then also inserted the names of the production crew as well. And then I said, have any of you been set up by your parents? ? 3 stars for the first 17 minutes.
When I was in first grade, yes.
Your mom was setting you up in first grade.
It was probably
elaborate, Bryan.
It was probably just a play date.
Okay.
But those were just so rare. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, the main actress was in Glow. That's what I remember her from.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So I said, Mom is cursed and her daughter has to get married to her true love by 30 or she'll die. Is this a Disney movie? And then I said, the Usha character reminds me of Priyanka Chopra. I may be pronouncing her wrong. She's a producer on the show, but God knows she looked like her to me. I don't know. I kept seeing it. But it's funny because later on after the show, I looked her up, and out of the makeup and everything, she doesn't look like her at all. So I was like, that's just weird that in the movie, to me, I was just like, is that her mom? That's got to be her mom. Anyway, I don't even know how old the woman is. She might not even be able to be her mom. So I wrote, I love seeing the main character as a romantic interest because usually she's the funny sidekick. And I thought they made her look gorgeous. I'm not used to seeing her like that. I've seen her in like little commercials and different TV shows, like you said, Glow and stuff. And she's just, silly sidekick. But being a love interest and not even a silly love interest at this point, I was all there for it. As Corey knows, I love the beauty of the fabrics and just even when you're sitting at home and not going anywhere, you look 10 times better than I ever will. I don't know. I enjoy seeing all that. So I thought it was great. And at this point, I gave this movie a 3.5 star. I was really excited about it.
I can go. So I like the mother-daughter connection already. Like I think that's pretty cool, the way they were talking, the way they were kind of connecting. But I felt like I was like, okay, main characters, again, similar to the last movie, character development is important in this type of dating, finding like love interest in the Indian culture. If you know anything about Indian culture, the parents got to sign off on every damn thing. I mean, everything has to be consented, approved. So I was like, that whatever is going to give me post 17 needs to be mother daughter or mother, father daughter, whatever it is, needs to be parental approved in Indian culture particularly. I put melodramatic times 100. I mean, there were elements that were so melodramatic and spliced out. And I put in parentheses, Indian Tyler Perry. And let me tell you why. Now, Corey knows how I feel about Tyler Perry. He makes some good productions, but just the drama and the violins and the dramatic editing, that's cool. But I was like, here we go. We've already in 17 minutes got like 2 or 3 melodramatic where it's like pulled out of like, I don't know. And so I put that literally my first 17 minutes is just kind of like Indian Tyler Perry, come on now. And then I put like a little, face, come on, really. And then I put the compelling Indian culture, which I like, but I wanted them to take it further. I think Indian culture is very intriguing in their beliefs, their values, as well as the dating piece, which I talked about earlier. I think they should have went further with that in the first 17. And obviously they do a little bit more, but I'm like, take it further. Like, for Western culture, we know a little bit about it, but like take that a little bit further. And this movie is the avenue to do that. Like if you need any movie to do that with, I think this is one example of a movie you could do it with. So I put like take it further, and I put an exclamation point. I give it a 2.5. I wanted it to be a little bit more, but I wasn't, mad or anything. I just wanted those critiques I just gave to be a little bit more clear in the first 17. So.
I was at 2.5 as well. So I started off saying, okay, this is sweet. We've got an overly obsessed mother stereotype with superstitious evil eye. The trailer has the mother warning the daughter about this guy, and the flashbacks and the drowning dreams are already indicating something's happening. So they really heightened up that drama, and then they go to like, I'm on a blind date in a coffee shop. And so when we see that the daughter flips off her evil eye bracelet, the movie wants me to know that that's a bad move, because there's a sound effect that happens when it happens. It's not like a dun dun dun, but it is. And I think it goes to what you're saying, Jeremy. It's like they really are telegraphing some things, and you're right. They don't go like all out crazy, but there's just some really beautiful imagery with the dreams and the flashes of it. All of the underwater stuff is just really, I thought, really well done with all the different people that they show underwater, and then you kind of ultimately figure out what's going on with that. But it feels like this is going to be a storybook movie without a whole lot of depth. So what I meant by that was you're just going to unravel the story, and you're going to go from plot point to plot point to plot point, and there won't be a whole lot to it. And that's kind of how I felt in the first 17. And I think that held up. Like there's a lot of story, but it doesn't really go super deep. So this is really a light thriller for me, and there's some really poignant and dramatic things, and some climaxes in it. Like, I won't spoil yet, but there's some climaxes there that are really kind of surprising. And when we get to that, I'll make a comparison later too. But yeah, at 17 minutes, I was 2.5. This is going to be all right.
So I'll say, since it sounds like we've done our 17 minutes.
Yeah.
It's funny, Bryan, that you and Jeremy gave it a 2.5. I think I was stuck in that first 17 minutes. I think they got me just with the culture and the beautiful imagery, because this movie sucked. I'm so sorry. Like, I was pissed by the time this movie went off. And so I can go ahead, I guess, if it's okay, Corey. And just
go for it.
Start by, and I'm going to start with something I said at the very end, but this, I think, can kind of lead the conversation. The name of this movie was Evil Eye, and I felt like it had no place in this movie whatsoever. So supposedly the evil eye is supposed to protect. And what we saw is that it had absolutely no effect on the thing that it was supposed to protect from. So you have this woman who has basically, she's a mental case, has basically gotten so obsessed with this, something that does nothing, absolutely does. The whole evil eye thing, I don't even know why it was part of this story. I really, really don't. It wasn't necessary to still talk about, the thing that happened at the end and all that other stuff. But I don't know why this was called Evil Eye, and I don't even know why they had them in the entire movie. Like, I was like, what? Like,
mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, because I don't think that I really don't think that it clearly, even though she took the bracelet off and they had the da-dung, like that was really eventful. I don't think nothing was protecting her, and it
no.
was all just by chance that that guy met her in the coffee shop. It was all so random, and it seemed weird how that all played out. I think you can do the spoiler thing now.
Warning, 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 warning.
The whole thing about reincarnation and not being able to escape fate and all of that, you're right. It's just like you didn't need any of the evil eye stuff. Maybe we just don't understand it as much, and it really meant more than we could know. But that would have been the job in the movie to explain that
Exactly.
more to us that needed a little bit more explanation or a little bit more power there. Because the opening credits, yes, those were gorgeous. I mean, they were not only informative, but they were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some money thrown into it, but you can't explain the rest of the movie with some phrases at the beginning that you're not going to remember in the movie when
But
you're in the middle of it.
Them.
I did too.
I did read
But I
them.
couldn't tell you anything about them. Yeah.
I agree with you, both of you guys. There's no connection between the necklace that the mom was wearing and the bracelet that the daughter was wearing. Like, I think if there was some type of spell that was going on between what was going on with the evil eye, the mom would have woke up or something, or we would have cut back to the mom when it broke off of the daughter's brace, off of her arm.
Yeah.
When the ex-boyfriend puts it around the mom's neck, would it have burned his hand? Did he freak out by seeing it? He was just like, oh, these superstitious things, blah, blah, blah. It looks great around your neck. It's like, okay, but the main thing that got on my nerves and why this movie sucked for me as well, that I went to a 2-star, was that the lead actress's acting was so phony. Like, she was fine in the first 17 minutes because she was doing that rom-com type of thing, blah, blah, blah. But when she starts to do the dramatic acting, and she has, particularly the phone call she has with her mom in the bedroom and with her father, and her father's telling her about her mom's past, and she's like, oh my God, she was in an abusive relationship. That's awful. And then she's like, Mom. And when she's on the phone with her mom.
Dana's doing the perfect representation, by the way. Dana, keep going. Don't stop. Keep going, Dana. Keep going. Keep going.
Look, this is the part where she bust out laughing.
It's when she's laughing, crying with her mom. It's like, really? What are you doing? This is awful.
I didn't know if she was laughing or what. I told Corey, I honestly think what happened at that point is she realized this movie was going downhill and fast. Because at first I was like I said, I was there for her. But at this point, she did not care that she had. I mean, I don't know if she didn't believe her mother or she just didn't care. But for the relationship that I thought they had, she didn't care about her mother and all this. I feel like this movie, it was not a horror, it was not a thriller, it was not a mystery. This was a drama about domestic abuse.
Yes.
Let
me tell you,
it's awful.
Let me tell you, Dana, I almost had a Midsommar moment. And let me tell y'all, I'm gonna wait till Corey gets back to elaborate on what I mean by there's I think in L-5 history, in the years we've been doing this, Midsommar is probably the worst movie we've seen. But I thought we had that moment when she was on that bridge, and I said, "Don't jump! Oh my God!" I didn't know if we were gonna have her jump because, again, like Corey was saying, with the spell or just like karma's coming to get me, and I'm about to end myself. Like I was like, please don't have a Midsommar jump, please. Like, and so that was a moment where I was just like, these kind of like phony, I guess is the word Corey used. I would agree. These kind of phony, just kind of super, again, I use melodramatic is the word I used earlier, but I'm gonna stick with that. Like, if you're gonna persuade me and make it super dramatic, like at least captivate me to say like, okay, there's some stakes at hand. If you do this, this happens to you. If you wear this piece of jewelry, and cartoons do it all the time. There's lots of Egyptian and Indian like cultured things that I think anime and cartoons do it well, where there's something at hand when you wear this piece of jewelry. They could have easily put that in. That's a trope or an easy cultural thing. Again, you have Indian culture, which I think it lends itself to talk about that stuff. If you're gonna have 90 minutes of my time and you don't tell me what this stuff is, or you don't give me a background of what it does, like there could be background things where it's like back in the day it could have hurt people but you didn't say none of that. So
I agree.
That was disappointing.
I agree, especially like you were saying when she's at the bridge. I think this is how the whole movie, I feel like, was starting to turn me into the mom. You know, you were getting me all riled up for nothing. And I kind of felt that way on the bridge. like, honestly, had she jumped Jeremy, it may have made the movie better, because she was real. I mean, you know, because she obviously walked, first off. That was one thing. She had no car. She just walked from her house all the way to the bridge that the dad had to drive to, but that's whatever. But that's just how she was. She had to go out there, and she walked out there. And I just knew this was going to be her breaking point, where the crazy was just going to all flood out, and we were going to get something. And instead, they just go back home. And she asked, as she's going in the door, do you think I'm crazy, don't you? You know, that was it. And I was like, oh, that we're not getting anything. And also to your point, Jeremy, when you're talking about stakes, I don't know about you, but other than the killer, so slightly threatening her daughter, I never felt like he was going to do anything. He was a bad villain.
And this movie, the plot itself is so simple that we have seen this before, where it is a domestic, you know, violent type of plot between these characters. But the lead actress, she did the same thing that any other woman does in any of these types of movies, where she's very naive. You know, she let him buy her an apartment. She moved it. You know, the mom says, don't move in, blah, blah, blah. She moves in. Da, da, da. Like all these things, there's nothing new that happens in this relationship between her and this guy to even add any other intrigue other than the evil eye thing that's going on. And I'm just like, this is boring. Like this
Maybe
is
that's what the evil eye does.
Huh?
Maybe the evil eye stops her from thinking, you know, like making,
No.
Because at first she wouldn't accept the earrings, right? I was like, okay, you know, this is this independent girl that your mom raised. Now all of a sudden he's like, don't work, I'll pay for you. Are you crazy? Y'all ain't married, ain't nothing. I'm quitting my job. You know, so maybe that's
okay. All right, but then that depends on when that bracelet broke off of her arm.
She was working because she was sitting in her office when it came off.
Well, was that after she refused the earrings?
Right.
I know that I can't tell you.
So that would be interesting if it was protecting her up until that point, but it didn't protect her enough to not meet. But yeah, so we don't have to go that deep into this.
Wow.
I didn't have quite a violent experience with this. I didn't hate it nearly as bad. I don't strong opinion. I didn't go Midsommar on it. But I was there all the way through the end, and what I was talking about before about the surprise climactic thing was the actual like fist fight in the kitchen. Yeah, it was weird. It reminded me a lot of Fatal Attraction with the rabbit in the stew pot in the kitchen. You know, just this weird, just out of nowhere fight scene between characters that really probably shouldn't be fighting. With the three of them, it was awkward. It was really awkward and weird, and different. And so, you know, I was just like, okay. And it was surprising. I was like, what is she going to do? Because the mom comes to save the kid. She comes back to the States to I don't know, save her or do whatever. And then they end up in this weird hostage situation thing, and it was just weird. But but what I was saying before with the underwater imagery and all the different characters going in and out of the water and dying and being reborn and reincarnating and all of that, I thought it was really interesting. I just wish that it was done more elegantly than this movie did it. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, they ruined it by him reappearing in a baby, and it just felt cheap.
Yeah, it was cheap.
And then what if she doesn't have a daughter? Because he's a baby and she's 28. I don't know, making this up. So it has to be if she has a daughter. What if she doesn't have one? Where does this go from here?
Yeah. And what if she's pregnant already and he goes after his own daughter?
And it's his daughter.
Yeah.
This is back to Jeremy's Tyler Perry stories.
Tyler Perry, Jerry Springer, Mari Povich. Like, you are the father. Like,
yeah. Have they done those episodes?
That's what I meant about the Tyler Perry thing. Is just this dramatic, like, going nowhere, but to fill in part of the story. If it pays off, it pays off. I actually don't like dramas and where a story is like super dramatic, it pays off. Cool, that's fine. But it did, like all of us are saying here, it didn't take us nowhere. Mm-hmm. You got a baby at the very end, you got a fight scene and you stab. And first of all, one stab gonna put you down. She out here fighting like she Mike Tyson. One hit gonna put you down. So I didn't even like the little dramatic fighting scenes were not even truthful. So if you're gonna be dramatic and authentic, cool, but like don't be having her getting tagged 3 times and she's still standing, put her on the ground, man. Like things like that where these little details shouldn't really matter as much really are amplified because the movie was so bad that we got to pick out things like this. Like the thing I didn't like about it that you all kind of mentioned before, but like her acting, I think Corey mentioned her acting, which was the main character's acting was okay, but also I wasn't compelled to like feel a certain emotion. Like it was just sort of like laugh it off and ha things where I think she should have been the opposite. She actually was the inverse. And I was like, that's throwing me off because I'm more compelled than you. I'm more like hurtful that your mom is a domestic. Like that shouldn't be where I'm the viewer and I feel it more than you as the actor or actress, whatever. I never like movies that do that because now I feel like, why am I feeling this way? Or what's the payoff for it? And so that happened a couple times. Like I could pick out 4 or 5 scenes where like, really? Like, or the whole there was a bunch of phone conversations.
Yeah.
Like just I would prefer to actually switch it up, change it up. Let's actually, like, if you're going to do a bunch of phone conversations, make them very believable, and you didn't do that. And so those are elements I think that took it away, that if done right, my score would have really been the opposite direction, but they weren't done well in my opinion. So
yeah, I think one of the things that we like to do is talk about what the movie could have used or how it could have done better. Sometimes we would leave the theater saying we need to just rewrite that script and start over. And what's striking me about this conversation is that everyone's saying the main character. I wasn't sure if the mother was the main character or if the daughter was the main character. So it's like we've been talking about the main character being the daughter. I really felt like it was the mother who should have been the main character, and we should have gotten more with her. And when I was watching this movie, I think this timeline went so fast that they never really gave us a whole lot of character building with the bad guy, the boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And because it's like suddenly the daughter, she just is so like into him and trusts him so much and they really didn't build up why are you so into him? Why is there so much trust here all so fast? And we're supposed to kind of be skeptical of him, but we didn't have anything to be skeptical of really yet. So there wasn't.
Hair was slicked back. I was like, I'm serious.
And he was
I'm
too good
telling
looking.
you.
And he was too good looking. There's got to be something wrong with him.
Back hair. I was like, I don't know. And I think, Bryan, to what you said, one of the reasons I think I thought the daughter was the main character is because I wrote this. I was like, this is a horrible soap opera that dragged out and it's repetitive. And I felt like Mom just kept saying the same crap over and over again. So I think maybe that's why I didn't think of her as a main character, because every time we saw her, she was saying the same. I mean, it could have been the same lines for all, I knew. She kept saying the same stuff. So, I think it would have been interesting to look more into her, because I really do think that she had a mental problem, and trying to explore that more and dig down into it. We could have gone that way maybe with the movie, and that could have been something different. But just as it stands, I good point. I did think it was the daughter who was the main character.
Yeah, and so that repetitive, that feeling like the scenes are repetitive, every scene ought to build on each other, and if you don't carry the story forward, you really have to think about dropping that scene. Like, what was the point of it if we don't build character or build plot or build something important? And they really needed to do that, and if it feels repetitive, then they're not doing it well enough.
What's the rating of this movie? Is it what? Can anyone look up? Because that's gonna lead to my
4.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
But was it R? Is it what? Is that the? You mean what you meant by or the?
Yeah, well, that as well as is it PG-13 rated R as well? I know Corey has the.
Oh, it's rated.
It should be R.
I hope not.
I didn't see nothing R.
I'm just verifying before I make my next.
It's not rated, to be honest with you. It says not rated.
Okay, because if I had to rewrite it, or like what Bryan was saying, like how we leave the theater or we leave a movie, I would have put it all the way rated R, make the premonitions, make some dangerous scenes, like really make it a thriller, make it like scary, make her as the mother feel like, man, like if this new reincarnation of the man who was my ex-boy, like take it all the way. I think be a little risky. Like that's why I was asking the rating question, because based on obviously how it's rated, you can only go so far. And so depending on that, I as the director or filmmaker, I would have took it all the way. And those elements would have addressed what Dana was saying about the repetition, which you could have switched it up every single time. Like there's a new premonition, there's a new thought. I'm thinking about my ex, and now I see this new guy, and something else happens. I see a new premonition, part 2, something else happens, and you can build on the timeline of what Bryan was saying. Is very linear. They don't give us any kind of like stakeholders or climaxes. You add that different rating on it and you make it more dangerous. All of us are like, well, man, like that's actually, I really feel for the character, but you don't get that when you have this type of movie. That's why I wanted to know how it was rated to see how far, but I don't know.
I think, Bryan, you mentioned Fatal Attraction, right? Who mentioned Fatal Attraction?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, a great example of how this could work. Because obviously you have a character who is fatally attracted to someone. I don't know how else to put it. But anyway, I felt that with her, right? Like I felt why she was doing all these things. Like I could feel like her craziness towards him or whatever. The male character who was fatally attracted to the mom, while she's beautiful, I didn't understand his motivation in any way, shape, or form, because we didn't really deal with him. Other than when she was younger, he followed her. I didn't get the fatal attraction. Like, why is he there was no reason for it. So enough to come back over and over again. Like, why? That a lot of that was missing. So I do think his storyline needed to be, buffed out. And again, this is some of the stuff they could have done instead of repeating the same conversation 500 times. So
One positive thing I thought, the father's acting, I really, really liked. I really did like the father character, but I found it really interesting that the mom decides to leave and go after her daughter. And then the father comes and he's like looking for the mom, for his wife. he walks out the front door and he's just like, "Where'd you go?" You know, he's calling her name, and that's it. If it was me, okay, and my wife goes after her daughter and I can't find her, I'm calling the daughter. Like, why didn't he call the daughter and be like, "Have you seen your mama? Where's blah, 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 blah?" You know, whatever. Like, they just ended his whole storyline right there at the door. I was like,
well, if it was going to be more realistic, it probably would have taken him a couple of days to notice she was gone.
Like he was sleeping on the couch.
No, because the mom never left. The mom never went anywhere. She stayed in the house all the time.
Thank you, Corey. They alluded to that. They said it. He was like, she doesn't leave the home.
Yeah.
That's what validates his point.
Yeah.
She was out at the party, and she stayed at the party and socialized for 5 minutes. Then she got to go inside and pray. So it's like, she doesn't.
That is such a good. What happened to Dad? Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to him?
They just.
Totally dead stop, and I liked his character.
I don't remember. Did they just end it? Like we never see him later?
Never see him after he walks out the front door and asks him where his wife is. He's yelling her name in the street.
And of course, she done flown across the world somewhere else. So
exactly.
Oh, he'll figure it out.
Bad for the dad. I really do. I think I'm waiting. You know, to me, I felt like he was a good guy for putting up with his wife. Because again, I was in my mind saying that she had a mental condition, so I wasn't blaming her for it. I was saying she has something, you know, and he was trying to get her to go and get help. But I just thought, I'm sorry, I thought it was raining. Anyway, I just thought that, well, you know, we're supposed to get that big store, so I got
you ain't wrong.
But yeah, I just thought that, you know, I don't want to say he was a saint because I always said, but I just thought he was a good person because he was, dealing with her, and we didn't really address him at all. He was just like some side character there.
He was blaming himself at one point. Remember, because he was like, "It's not you, it's my fault because I brought you back to Delhi." You know, he was like, "I didn't have to have this job.
Yeah,
I could have just stayed where we were." You know.
And it dredged up all these thoughts. I just had a thought how it would have been made better if we focused more on the mom and her condition, and if the boyfriend wasn't reincarnated, if he was completely innocent and she was convinced that he was no matter what, and all this happened and she made, she ends up killing him, and he was never the bad guy in the first place.
Yeah.
That would have been great. That would have been great.
And then add to that with, I think Dana said this at the very beginning of this review. What does evil eye mean? So you as the viewer are like, okay, that's what evil eye mean. Whether it be some karma, some metaphor.
It's all up here.
It's all up here. Yeah, but I agree with her original point of, I'm watching and I cut it off and I was like, evil eye. More like evil doing, like evil what? Like I was
should have been called Downward Spiral.
something better than that. Like, so out of the two, this was the worst of the two.
Oh yeah.
My final score was a 2-star from a 3 when we started out the first 17.
Mine was a 2.5, and I had started out at 3.5.
I went from 3.5 to 3.
I went from 2.5 to 2. Peace up, A-Town down.
Yeah, we're all going down a little bit more. So it had an interesting start, but went all downhill. Didn't hold it together. So these 2 Blumhouse films, black box. That sounds like our recommendation for this week.
Yep.
Now, how are y'all feeling about, and this may have been me getting it wrong because I didn't see trailers for these, obviously, because I don't do that. But knowing like Blumhouse has really brought us some scary mess. Mm-hmm. So none of these so far that we watched have been what we would call horror,
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I just had that in my mind because of who they were, thinking that they're supposed to be scary. Maybe they're not.
Well, it's kind of like when all those years ago when Miramax was doing all of these really indie, edgy movies, and then suddenly something would come out and it was different. And like, how dare you? How dare you do something different? But no, I thought that these were going to be more horror movie than they ended up being, and I kind of felt like they ended up being more like Twilight Zone or Alfred Hitchcock or something. And you said Black Mirror too, and and you know, that's great. And sometimes, you know, you need more than an hour to tell a story. You need more than an episode of TV to tell a story, but you don't need 6 hours to tell one of these stories. And so I think, you know, doing this, you know, deciding, is this a movie or is this a series or is this just an episode of an anthology? I think that's important. So I felt a little misled. I've had the same kind of feeling there. About these, and I'm interested. I think we should do the next two as well, and see how that goes. Because I like these. I like the short story things. I like anthology TV series too. There's one I started that I'm not really liking much. Room 400.
What is it?
Room 400 or 4 whatever. It hasn't really taken off for me yet.
Is that on HBO Max?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I saw a preview.
It's a hotel room, one hotel room, and the different stories in the room.
Oh, okay, I've seen the.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I wanted to see that.
Okay.
I've seen some of those
so far.
The
It
first,
was going to be a comedy. I don't know.
it's not a comedy. You know what? If you want a weird comedy horror story about a weird hotel room, that the movie that we saw, I don't know, was it last year?
Artemis?
Hotel Artemis?
Artemis? Is that the same one, Bryan, or is that different?
No, the one that was on the border of the two states. It was super crazy.
Royale.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that's called, the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know the whole name, but yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
That was great.
That was good. That was really good.
It was.
All right.
Great storytelling.
I think, Dana, to your point though, like when we put in the chat Black Box and Evil Eye, I was like, it's kind of like when we hear a title, see a trailer, see a album or a design code, we're like, I'm intrigued. So when we said again Black Box and Evil Eye, I was like, yo, like I'm excited. Then, like you said, the Blumhouse and the normal kind of scary horror piece, I had higher expectations for that. Now, Black Box, as we all rated it, it didn't. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't horror. So I was like, I'm still intrigued by the product, but at the same time, I thought you was gonna scare me though, right? So so
I don't think the next ones will be scary.
I don't need.
I don't think
that was my point. Yep, these two told me enough in terms of the horror aspect, and I judge by titles. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like if a title Black Box intrigues me. Evil Eye, I was like, it can go either way, but Black Box, I'm like, is this some, like, I think someone said sunken place, or is this a thing that transforms? I don't know. So, but what we got wasn't what I thought. So,
well, I think Blumhouse has such a broad spectrum of horror movies that they do, you know, psychological thriller, creature, you know, sci-fi thriller, whatever. You really don't know what you're going to get from them, but they're such a big company or a well-known company that they really, when you hear that name, you do think scary versus more thriller or psychological. So I don't know. I know when I saw the trailers, because I watched all the trailers, I think Black Box was the only one that really made me think that it was going to be scary, because those creaky bone noises and stuff and the jump scares were in the trailer. So I was like, ooh, this looks pretty freaky. And then you attach the Blumhouse name to it. I was like, oh yeah. So I thought the other three might fall in line, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that way. So I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe they didn't present it that way. That's what I was saying. I mean, you know, maybe that was just me in my mind because of
the name.
Relate them with that.
Well, thanks everybody for joining the L-5 podcast tonight. We will watch the other two movies from the Blumhouse project. Welcome to the Blumhouse project, and report back on those two. Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Go vote.